So, welcome to panel two, best practice in maintaining and enhancing relationships with existing customers. And as with all the events, we want this to be a very, very live session. So ask questions, make comments, come in with thoughts and ideas. We have an absolutely fabulous panel for you who are going to be able to answer all of your questions. So our first panelist is Leslie Chirazzi. She's the managing partner of Cmit Solutions of Manhattan and Murray Hill. She's been with Cmit Solutions for 3.5 years. She's in that time increased the business tenfold. She's been a woman of the channel in 2020. She's a business solution specialist, and her business is healthcare focused. So, Leslie, tell us a little bit more about your business.
Thanks so much, Rod. So, Cmit Solutions is a franchise. There are 200 locations covering the whole country, more than 1,000 technicians. And basically, we provide remote management, cybersecurity, special projects, backup and disaster recovery. And what's great is we can really provide, because of the size of Cmit, we can provide enterprise class solutions, but delivered locally. And, I think that the ability to not only develop our own stack here locally, but work with partners all over the country, as well as customers all over the country, and provide them the same solutions and the same type of service that we give our local customers. So thanks so much. I'm looking forward to today's panel.
We're looking forward to having you. So our second speaker is Erin O'Connor, and he is the founder and CEO of EPC Group. He's a 4-time Microsoft Press author and 3 times bestseller. He enjoys restoring classic cars and races in autocross events in Texas. He focuses his time on building EPC Group's Office 365 methodologies and works with IT leaders to deploy technologies within their organizations. He also has a 900 horsepower race car. He drag races and is trying to learn Korean. So, wow. Within all that, Erin, how much time have you got for EPC Group? But tell us a little bit about them.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, no, really glad to be here with everyone. Founded the company 23 years ago, so it's been a journey. We are one of the nation's largest Office 365, Microsoft Teams, SharePoint, Dynamics 365, Power BI integrators, but really working with managed services clients. It's interesting, obviously, with the time we live in, how business has changed, and to be able to adapt to that. But over the years, I feel like every 5 or 6 years, EPC Group has changed. So I think this is like EPC Group 4.0 or 5.0 with a big exclamation point. Of course, COVID is a whole nother ballgame. I remember 9/11. I remember some other financial crisis during the dot-com bubble and some of those other pieces. But no, I'm really happy to be here and share just some of the experiences that I've seen over the years and kind of what we're seeing in today's world.
Excellent. And our third panelist is Desiree Thomas, and she's the Channel Development Manager for Datto. And for the last 10 years, she's been in sales and account management roles. Prior to that, she traveled the globe extensively. She excels in relationship building and convincing people to do shots. Time for a virtual shot session, I think. And she's currently with Datto in a channel management role, basically, which she says is the 3 things I've already covered in a job, and isn't that the dream? So Desiree, tell us a little bit about Datto.
Sweet, absolutely. Thank you so much for your warm introduction. So Datto, there's a good chance you've heard of us at least once before, but we are your pretty much, we're the vendor that has all those solutions that you can use to help support and work with your clients. So whether that be your business continuity plan with your BCDR, or if you're looking at your RMM or PSA, or your networking gear. So it's a really good opportunity to come have a conversation with us, see what we've been doing in the industry. Please come visit us at the booth. We've got a Mophie case up for grabs, fill up a quick survey. And yeah, we really just are working with MSPs to help them grow.
Excellent. And our fourth panelist is Matt Scully, and he's the channel chief at Mail Protector. And he joined the Greenville company after spending 5+ years at Datto, so I'm sure he probably knows Desiree already. And Matt is responsible for leading the channel strategy at Mail Protector. He brings 21 years of sales and marketing experience to the role, and he was director of sales in both a corporate travel firm and for a furnished housing company where he led the team in sales every year he was there. So Matt's got quite a track record in sales. And when he's not chasing his 3 kids and his basset hound around, you can find Matt enjoying a pint at any establishment that plays Pink Floyd or the Beatles. I kind of feel we should have got Pink Floyd track to introduce you to the audience, Matt.
I agree with that, Rod. I think that would have been absolutely great, especially the song called Money, which I think would fall into this question.
So tell us a bit about Mail Protector.
Awesome. So Mail Protector is exactly how it sounds. It's a company that protects mail. I know it came up with a really creative name, but we actually started in 2002. And as email usage grew, so did the compliance and regulation needs. And we kind of answered that call and has all the certifications and the compliance to support it. Recently in 2017, we launched Bracket, which is our email encryption tool. That tool has literally been our bestseller. It has been something that has taken sort of the industry by storm. And with Bracket, basically what you do is you put brackets in the subject line and you send out the email and it's encrypted. The reason I'm bringing up Bracket is that this past August, we launched our latest version of Bracket. And with it, it's a couple different enhancements that I think that is going to completely disrupt the email security industry. That being said, we are raffling off a Tesla for anyone that gets a brand new domain with Bracket, as well as anybody that sells the most Bracket licenses from September 1st to December 31st will win a Tesla as well. So we've got some really exciting things on that. One of the things that we think about is to try to get the Bracket into your client's hands, and the way that we're able to do that is by offering you free invoicing on new domains from September 1st to December 31st. So that said, we've got a lot of exciting things that are happening here at Mail Protector, and I'm excited to be part of this, and I want to thank you and Batches for all of your efforts in getting this thing started. So thank you.
Fabulous. So we're going to be talking about best practice in maintaining and enhancing relationships with existing customers, a real challenge for a lot of us during the current pandemic. But what I'd like to do is start with a poll. Let's try and get a feel for everyone on the call and where we are. So if you click on the poll button and put in your answer, and if you could start doing that now. So click on that poll button on the right-hand side and pop in your answer. So a number of you are doing that. Keep popping those answers in. Give you a few more moments to do it. Come on, guys. Doesn't take that long. Just click on one of those buttons. So drop down the poll button and complete those answers. Okay, I'll give you 10 more seconds. Okay. And it looks like getting quality time with the customer decision makers is the biggest issue, as well as communicating the value of what we do to the customer. So Desiree, wonder if you'd like to comment on that. In fact, communicating the value of what we do to the customer is the number one answer.
Yeah, absolutely. I can definitely, in many of the statistics that we're pulling, that's the same kind of idea. And the big problem with that is that we go through, and MSPs have a really hard time tooting their own horn. And getting people to actually asking someone to toot your horn for you is can be a hard, uncomfortable thing to ask, but it's definitely something that we need to be doing throughout the industry, whether it be Datto as a company or we're talking to our partners. And we're finding things like when you're doing those quarterly review meetings, you're having those conversations where people are happy and excited about the things that you're doing. At that point in time, it's a good opportunity to actually look at those partners and be like, will you take a moment to write a review for us, or do you have a few friends that you can make that introduction, that warm introduction, to help you get into other companies? There's some other tips and tricks that I think are really good when it comes to that kind of getting that conversation going, is even when you're when you're meeting a new partner or a new client for the very first time, if you've already gotten to the point where they like you and they know who you are, take a look at the areas that they work in and the people that they connect with, whether it be nowadays we're looking less in person and more on social media. So on social platforms, whether it be LinkedIn or social or Facebook or whatever the media that you're using, use those moments to see who they connect with. So when you have that meeting, you already know the handful of people that you would like to see if they'll make that warm introduction. Those are some good examples that I think work well.
Excellent. And Leslie, from a CEO's perspective, what do you do to communicate your value to the customer?
Certainly, I think Desiree has some great points, and obviously Datto is a huge partner of ours, and I think they create kind of the value add that we want to give to clients and make sure that they understand what they're getting in regards to disaster recovery and protection. But I think communicating value, I hate to use this, but I love some solvable dramas. I think, because we're an MSP and we're billing our clients monthly, they need to understand that value month over month. Because if they've been paying you for 6 or 7 months and haven't heard from you, haven't seen you, haven't needed you, then, the likelihood of them continuing to pay you is much less. So, I like to make sure that not only are we checking in with customers, whether it's a drop by or a phone call or an email or some form of education, but I also want to make sure that when there's an issue, they're reminded of what our value is and that there's great follow-up.
Excellent. And the second most important answer was getting quality time with the customer decision makers. So, Matt, you've been in sales for a long time, and I know everything's changed at the moment, but what advice have you got for people on the call?
I just want to understand the question. Is to
getting quality time with the customer decision maker. I think it used to be you popped in their office, everyone was there, it was all cool. Yep. It's very, very different today.
Well, yeah, I think getting quality time with the decision maker is something that is the most important thing in the pre-sale, not necessarily, after the sell. Meaning in the sense of decision maker, how many times do we waste our marketing and sales efforts on speaking to somebody that really has no influence on the decision on where the sale is going to go? So I want to put that into the pre-sales, making sure that when you are conducting your marketing and your sales efforts, that you are speaking to the right person that either has an influence to the buyer or is actually the buyer. A lot of times we high-five each other when we're just speaking to somebody from the company thinking that we made some sort of progress. Even going back to on the previous question as well is when we're talking about creating value. I remember I was a salesperson and I had a guy who was a great MSP. He was one of the better MSPs I've ever worked with. And so he was talking to me and he was really, really surprised because he had lost one of his biggest clients. And I was really surprised at that because I thought that this guy, dotted his I's, crossed his T's and everything like that. And yeah, he lost his big client there. And about 6 months later, I actually received in my portfolio or my book of business, the guy that won that business. And I had to ask the question. I said, the original MSP's name was Bob. I said, what did Bob do? Bob seemed like a really, really strong MSP. He seemed like he was pretty client focused. And, I always had really good interactions with him. He's got a solid company. And the new MSP said, yeah, Bob was great. Bob was awesome. Problem is that Bob really never showed us the value that he was bringing to the table. In other words, as MSPs, a lot of what they do is behind the scenes. And with today's, RMM tools and PSAs and all the different access that we have to reports that are out there, there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to take those reports and show your client and say, hey, look, this is what we're doing. This is the value that we're bringing. Because when it comes time to signing that contract or, re-signing the contract or renewing the contract is the better way of describing it, if they don't have that in front of them, they're just going to think that everything is hunky-dory and everything is going great, and they're not going to feel a need to proceed to go and re-sign. So again, creating that value and showing that value and having the supporting data to have that. So when it comes back into a decision maker process, the correct one, it's making sure that that person gets those reports and gets to do that. And the way that I strongly suggest this, and you don't have to do this with every single one of your clients, but you need to have QBRs, whether it's for 15 minutes, whether it's 20 minutes, whether it's you're just presenting a specific report. You need to communicate value, and with the channel, with all the tools that they have today, there's no excuse not to do so.
Excellent. And Erin, if I can come back to you on that one, and I think Matt makes some great points there. Any thoughts on how you guys go about communicating that value to the customer base?
Sure.
Particularly at the moment where you can't turn up in their office.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, similar in nature. It's almost what is the ROI? How do you show them tangible ROI? And one way that we look at it is how much time are we actually saving them per month, per employee? So if there's 50 employees, if we can actually show that we save them 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours per employee, you're looking, X amount of hours per month times X amount of dollar figures. We're saying, well, we're actually providing you $3,000 to $7,000, whatever the value might be. And so putting that tangible dollar value on ROI is important. And then also ensuring that you have a plan for the future. And so being able to say, okay, well, not only are we showing you ROI, but this is what we think that the path that you should take. And you want to revolutionize your offerings a little bit during this time. But I think instilling the fact that you're going to be able to tackle what's going to come up, tackle the future in that nature. So ROI, being able to say, well, what's your roadmap, and also present what you believe that your roadmap for them is going to be. Get checkpoints along the way. Those are definitely solid ways, but I would kind of dovetail on what Matt was saying there as well.
Okay. And Desiree, one of the challenges is you used to be able to just get all of the client staff in their boardroom, sit there and talk to them. Any thoughts on how people on the call can do a job of actually, because you want to interact with the client's wider team, how do you do that today?
Don't you do the same thing? I'm just kidding. Just kidding. There's so many inventive ways right now. I think the biggest thing I could say is if you have an idea, try it 100%. The number of times within the industry and the partners that we're talking to, I've seen partners hold like games nights for their clients, the more engaging outside of the bubble, doing events for kids and families so they can entertain, like while a person might be working, a business is doing something to entertain their kids just to give the person some time off, or doing, I know that there's different vendors who have done murder mystery nights, or even as a team, we do a lot of like twice a week where we have like a Zoom happy hour call. Happy hours are huge. And it's hilarious because it's still awesome, like being able to sit and talk and have a drink with people and things like that. And all of those ways, although aren't focused on business specifically, you are giving your clients a value that's beyond something. So you're relieving some of their stress, you're giving them something extra, and you're not going for the hard close. So we talk a lot about having educational information that gives people something that's valuable that you're not trying to sell to. These are other ways that same thing, that you can interact with your clients and all of the staff within a business in the same format. But then once you have a Zoom meeting where you have something to say, they're more apt to believe in you because you've spent that effort and time doing something, not trying to sell. I think those are awesome things. And then really, if you have an idea, just try it, because I'm talking to partners who are so outside the box of anything that I would have even thought of, and it's working for them. So definitely try things that are completely crazy. And then to go back once, even now in some places, going and doing the actual door knocking where people are stopping by offices, because there are some offices across the US and Canada that are opening up where they have 2 or 3 people in the office, and stopping by and dropping off lunch cards. You're not doing anything else. You're doing it safely and protected and all those things, but people are appreciating it a lot more.
And Leslie, what are you doing in your business?
Well, I'm about to play golf miserably next week to get one of my clients out of the office. So I figure there's still that for now. And who knows if I'll have to wear a mask during it or what. But I figure, Obviously, for the most part, we're online, so we're virtual with them. But a lot of my customers are healthcare, so they are in their practices working with full staff, and it's certainly been more of a challenge than before. But we're trying to find ways, whether it's take them out to eat outside locally, where where their offices are, or like I said, meet with them for a round of golf, or anything we can do to kind of change it up, keep positive, do something that's fun and really concentrate, like kind of what Desiree said, not, and Matt said, I think too, not producing the hard sell. This is about continuing and building your relationships and your rapport with your clients, not only out there to discuss business, but to find out how they're doing, how their families are, what we can do to help them with their business. Whether it's from the IT side or in another perspective that we haven't thought of, that they may value advice from us or connections from us.
Mm-hmm. Matt, do you want to come in on this one?
Yeah, I think so. I think the most important thing that we can do is to invite people, when I mean people, our MSPs, to events like this. I mean, this is an educational event. There's obviously a lot of value. If I'm looking at the agenda of this event, and all it could do is help MSPs grow their business. If we're going to be speaking on this, then invite our MSPs to these types of events. One, for they could get the visibility of seeing us speak, but also at the same time, pick up a thing or two on what they can do for best practices. It's funny, when I started with Mail Protector back in May of 2020, I took my time and just speaking with a lot of channel influencers and people that were heavily in the channel for not 5 years but 10 years and that type of thing, and just sort of pick their brain on how to tackle this new COVID world, and best practices on what has worked in the channel. And the one thing that someone said to me, he's kind of a rabble rouser into the channel. He said, "You know what? The channel hasn't been too creative. It really hasn't been. I mean, we are guys that have create code, and we make things Zoom meetings, and we make things reality in front of us, and we just haven't done that one thing that's really wowed everyone." And so I think the main thing that I got out of that was sort of a challenge to think out of the box, how can we think out of the box to make ourselves relevant as opposed to just being grouped into the Zoom worlds, right? So there's a couple different things. Is that, I think what we need to do is look at COVID in quadrants. Okay, the first one was that, okay, we're isolated. And then the second one was the second phase where we're isolated, but we're not. And the third one is like, okay, now we can sort of interact, but with social distancing. Find out where we are, because each state is different. I mean, and we're talking right now with a couple different states that has a couple different laws, and find out what you can and what you cannot do. If you are in that, phase 3 quadrant where you can be out and be in social distances, why not do lunch and learns, in a happy hour or happy hours, or places that are in a COVID friendly places, some places that are outside that actually have social distancing restaurants and stuff like that. I think people, maybe opt to go outside and do that. The other thing also is that understand how your MSP sales departments work. Do they have a 9 o'clock in the morning hands up meeting? Do they have a meeting, lunch sales meeting every lunch, or whatever the case may be? But be a part of that. Learn that agenda and find out where you can add value into those sales meetings. One of the things that we did with an advisory board meeting that we had a couple of weeks ago, we actually had Frank Abagnale, the guy from Catch Me If You Can. He attended it. The guys got to speak to him. Now, I don't expect everybody to get Frank Abagnale, but what you can do is you can get an FBI guy, or you can get a Secret Service guy to come in and talk about, the different, things that are happening with the government, what the government is seeing. And that's not going to cost you anything. So, continue to add value, but through a way that's just sort of out of the box thinking. I think that's going to be important. That's going to be memorable when they're continuing to do business with you.
Okay. And Erin, in terms
Sure.
of the relationships you had and the way you were building relationships pre-pandemic, and what you're doing now, what are the key things that have changed? What have you learned in that time?
Sure. Yeah, it's really humanizing, I think, the transaction, humanizing the business relationship. So I think maybe this has even helped us to improve that, being able to, the amount of personal calls I make a day to CIOs, IT directors, just saying, how are things going? But you want to bring value. They're busy, they're stressed, they're doing their own thing. So you want to come, make it short and sweet, but bring value, and also try to say, well, is there anything that we can do? We've offered things like free hours, blocks of X amount of free support hours, or can we do a pre-proof of concept for X platform for you just to assist? And we're not trying to sell them things. I think not selling and not trying to be salesy. Stop. The phone calls really aren't working. I think or aren't working as well. So things like LinkedIn, being able to reach out to folks in different platforms, because you're going to find people at home, but you're not necessarily going to have their home number. It might not reroute to their home number. So it's really important to humanize and to take the time to make that extra effort. We've sent things like cookies to stakeholders or certain team members, or Uber Eats credits, or we'll get with the HR person who can then say, okay, well, here, EPC group is going to pick up lunch today. What would you all like? They send in their menu, and then whether or not they want to provide their address. If they do, then of course we'll deliver them lunch. So, still again, COVID protocol, but just humanizing the relationship. And I think there's been some good lessons learned in this, that sometimes you look at businesses, not always transactional, but okay, well, here we signed this deal, we're doing a good job, let's move to the next. It's really more important ever than to nurture the existing relationships that you have, and look at them as long-term, phase 2, phase 3 clients, not just a one-time transaction. It's just so key.
Excellent. Okay, and we've got a bunch of questions coming in, so let me pick up on some of those. Got a question about from an MSP. I feel we are less and less visible to our clients because of the pandemic. Desiree, I don't know if you want to come in with some advice on that one.
Yeah, for sure. And this is where I would say it goes on with what Matt was saying earlier, that there is a part of this industry over the last 10 years that hasn't been inventive. And so it's getting out of that comfort zone that we have been in, that we do these things in one way, but that's not working. So what do we do next? We, even at Datto, have been doing really different things, like our MSP Rockstar series, where we have been interviewing our end user, our partners' clients, and those clients are willing to sing your praises. So it's that conversation even, and any Datto partners who has an end user who wants to sing your praises, send them my way, des@datto.com. But that is one way to highlight the work that you're doing. And when I talk to those end users, they are so ecstatic with what you're doing that they are willing to sing your praises. So I just know by those conversations, that even if you're not a Datto partner and you're not having those conversations, or you're not working with us to do that, it's a good point. You can reach out to your partners and say, hey, what did you think about how we moved you to the work from anywhere world? How was that? Did you like how that service was provided? Would you be willing to do a video with me where we talk about that? And then doing things from there, kind of outside the box, whether or not you be doing like partner panels, you're like doing partner panels with your partners, to start those conversations, and it's information that you can record. So it's making you visible to your partners outside of what you would normally do, but it's making them talk about you too. So hopefully they're going to bring that into the conversation, their next Zoom meeting, their next Zoom call with whatever friends they have. I think those are definitely big ways. Once again, doing the $25 Uber Eats cards, and then educational sessions are also really big, where now thinking that if you up to 2 years ago didn't have a social media following, and that's not the way your business ran, totally understand. Now it's becoming more and more important that you're creating some sort of marketing plan that's doing touch points to people and prospects and partners, so they're seeing your name constantly, but they not necessarily, not the hard sell, but they understand that when they when Susie from down the street runs into them at the grocery store for whatever time and starts talking about something, that if it comes to computer services, they're thinking about you and they think about your relationship with them and they're willing to spread that word.
Excellent. And Leslie, with your customers, how are you emphasizing to them the value that CMIT brings? And how's that changed over the last 6 to 9 months?
I think, for the most part, I would say, I hope that we've delivered consistency all across, whether, prior to COVID and now. I think back to all of us, like kind of considering the human element of this. How are they faring at home? How are they faring in the office? How are they feeling? Kind of checking in differently than we did before. And in regards to delivering service, we've used this opportunity to figure out, what projects need to get done, what they want to be educated on. I think we've been doing a lot more kind of security awareness training with our employees, of our clients. And that's been a big help. And I think that's, again, back to creating value. It may not, we like to get ahead of it. We want to make sure that we're doing these things before they ask for it or before a competitor comes in, telling them all the things that they do. And then they're like, wait a minute, what is my MSP doing for me? So we want to make sure that we bring those things ahead. And I think, strange enough, this has kind of been a good time for that, to really kind of check in and, add value where we can, where it's not going to cost them more and they're going to gain something from it. And, maybe it's even something they're excited about offering.
Okay. I don't know who wants to pick up on this one. It's a tricky question. Any thoughts and advice on handling safety issues when we need to go on site? I don't know whether you want to start on that one, Matt.
As far as, I guess I can't ask MSP that, but as far as wearing a mask or that type of thing, do you think, or no?
Yeah, and any best practices, any thoughts you have on ways to approach it with a customer?
Oh, yeah. If you don't, obviously you'd have to go and just make sure you're on top of the CDC and making sure what's considered their guidelines and what they consider to be, safety protocol. Because it changes every single day, right? Some days we're told that we should wear masks, some days we're not. Some days we're told that stuff lays on the surface, and sometimes it's not. One thing that has just been relatively consistent to me is that when you're outside, you're a lot more safer than you are when you're inside. That type of thing. But I've seen a bunch of things. I've seen, even specifically when it comes into me going on to a client site, they had a temperature that they took a temperature at my head to make sure there wasn't a fever, having hand sanitizers everywhere. That's important. A lot of times what I've seen is a lot of vendors that have taken their collateral and made it very, post-COVID friendly, like small hand sanitizers and different masks and all that stuff. For me to answer that question is going to be kind of hard because, again, it's, there's a huge governing body that is supposed to be answering that question for us. But you know what, if I do have the floor, the one thing that I wanted to kind of add to what your previous question was that, there is, opportunity more than ever for MSPs. When you look at some of the statistics, right now phishing is up 600%. January 30th, the first case of COVID in the United States, phishing went up 48% there. Everywhere you turn around on a government website, there's a warning talking to you about these different scams, these different types of phishing attacks and, cyber attacks. All you have to do is take a quick look at cyber, statistics in 2020 and see how much they have ballooned. Even so much, not so much the request, but how much they're asking for. I think it's gone up 45% as far as how much they're asking for more for the ransom. So yeah, right now your job is there more than ever. And now you're taking people, and we're talking with, as Des mentioned, working from anywhere, the environment. How are those environments secure? What are you doing? And I think the best thing that you can do is to create a security checklist. And you need to have that. And every single person that you represent, every single person that you're supposed to be protecting has to have that security checklist in line, or that you don't work with them. plain and simple. I mean, if your job is to protect them and they're not taking the measures to protect themselves, then I mean, it's something where you have to look at them as a client, because you know what's going to happen is once something happens, something gets through, they're going to blame you. So making sure that you have these types of lists and these checklists and all that fun stuff. And if you need one, let me know. I can get one to you. But I think that is important. I mean, where we've seen at Mail Protector has been unbelievable with email security. Email security has just gone completely through the roof. Again, because of the fact that people are in relaxed environments and think that they're getting normal emails, and it's not. It's that dark web that's in there looking for opportunities for people to screw up. And that's where we kind of come in.
Okay, before I get a raft of questions on that one, Matt will send us his checklist and we will absolutely get it out to everyone.
Can I actually, before you do that, Des, I actually stole Des's checklist. So Des, if you could put the security checklist onto the thing, it's a Dado's checklist.
I totally knew you were going to say that, Matt.
Dado and I are friends, so you could do that. So Des at Dado.com should get you the checklist.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Right. And Erin, if you look at where you are and communicating that value, talking to the wider client, what are the key lessons that you've learned over the last 6 or 8 months?
Sure. Yeah. Taking things back to basics. I think going back to just old school relationship building, humanizing folks, understanding that what we're doing is work. People have families. People have. I've had 7, 8 employees that have had COVID, and so it's hit pretty close to home for me and my team as well. So, I think prioritizing, getting things done quickly, being able to work around folks' schedules with Teams implementations, with moving things to the cloud. We had to do them quickly. We were working 24-hour shifts through the weekends, being able to really help folks. And so it's, I think it's humbled us a lot to look at folks' situations and be able to just go back to say, you know what, Mr. or Miss Client, how can we actually help you? How can we take things back to the basics? And I think over the years, as business has changed, it has become more transactional. It's you don't always go on site to see folks, but getting on video calls, getting just more touch points, 5 minutes calls. How are you doing? How is your family doing? How is Tim's baseball? I mean, I just learning more about your client, and not just in a superficial way, but I think actually showing them that you care, and it's not all about the bottom line. That's been big at EPC Group. And again, the value of, are you prepared? I think, are you prepared for what happens if, God forbid, in the next 8 to 12 weeks, as I saw, a news report, this might increase again, right? So how do we prepare for that? How do we prepare now? And I think obviously we've learned a lot of lessons over the last 6-7 months. But with that being said, how do we kind of kick that back into gear without shutting everything down again and being able to transition? So it's been humbling in a sense that I think taking things back to basics, again, humanizing things and just making sure that the client knows that you really care and it's not just a business transaction.
Rob,
and
I'm sorry, I just
yes.
wanted to mention something back to kind of handling safety, because I know that was kind of what the question was. And certainly as an MSP, we have to make decisions all the time about whether or not to go on site. And, thankfully, I would say 80% of what we deliver can be done remotely. And we've been really keen on making sure, because, you always have clients, there are certain people that do not want it remote. They want you on site. And they've been much more understanding through COVID, but we really have to make a lot of decisions around that and preparing and making sure that my employees have PPE, they're secure, they're comfortable. One of my team is asthmatic. We've been really careful with whether or not to send him in on accounts, just based on that, making sure that the clients that we enter, like I said, back to being in healthcare, most of my clients are like completely covered in hazmat suits and masks and you name it. But we really have to make good decisions about when to send in our team and when to do things remotely, as well as when to meet virtually. Even we want to be there for the customer, but we have to do it in the most safe and secure way. And we have to touch base with our employees and make sure that they're comfortable. because you don't know who they have at home, maybe sometimes, who they interact with, who they need to be around. So we want to be really mindful about their safety and security first and foremost.
Fabulous. Now we're getting close to being out of time. So what I'd like to do is ask each of you to give, if we're looking at best practice in maintaining and enhancing relationship with existing customers, a really cool idea that the people on the call can take away and start implementing tomorrow. And Leslie, you're on screen in front of me, so let me start with you.
So I think I would say the first thing that comes to mind is proactivity. I think the biggest mistake, when I was a kid, I worked in the restaurant business, and sometimes the kitchen took a long time to bring the food out. And I could make two choices. I could avoid the table, or I could go over there and apologize, or bring them another, a loaf of bread or a drink on us. And I think, right now we have to be checking in regularly with our customers. I'm used to doing my QBRs in front of the customer at a meeting. Now, sometimes we deliver them virtually. Really making sure that they understand what we're here for and what we're doing, and get creative when they're not looking for you, to be able to reach out, whether it's just to say hello, invite them to something, ask how they're doing. Regular check-ins are really, I think, super critical.
Okay, and Matt, thoughts on that one?
There you go. That's a simple one. One thing that we do not do enough is ask for a referral. That's it. We don't ask for a referral. And when you look at studies and say, okay, what is the best way to grab business? It's not YouTube videos. It's not, cold calling. It's not, the marketing. And when you look at the ROI, the number one way is from referrals. Now, one thing about MSPs is that they are in networking groups. And so we have to assume that their clients are in networking groups as well. Find out who they're speaking to grow their own business. And then what you could do is ask for a referral. Real quickly, one of the things that we do, which I really enjoy, is this bracket thing that we have. And what on bracket is that it's such a viral tool that on the bottom of it, if there's somebody that's a licensed bracket user that's sending a non-licensed user a bracket email, and a non-licensed user really likes it, on the bottom, all they could do is put their first name, their last name, and their email address, and that lead goes to the MSP. So that's just a beautiful way of creating a referral and creating a lead gen into your solutions. So yes, ask for the referral and creating lead gens into your solutions.
Excellent. And same question to you, Desiree.
Sweet. I would say the biggest thing that you shouldn't do is just freeze. Just try something. It can be a bit overwhelming because we're in such a different place, and it is so weird, and everything that's happening is nothing that we've ever done before. The cool part about that is everyone's in the same place. So everyone has no idea, and nobody knows what works. There's no one way. Every one of us here will have a different answer to this exact question. Every person you talk to will have a different answer. And the only thing that I think is completely 100% is you can get lost in trying to think of ideas of what you should do. But during that time frame, you probably had 30 ideas that you could have implemented, a couple of them just to see what happens, just kind of get that traction, see what happens. And then the most interesting things that I've seen come up are those ideas of doing things for families, for kids, having bring in, like, even within data, we have we'll bring in like a chef who will cook it for us, and you can zoom into the thing and you can watch, doing stuff for that your partners, where you might try. I wouldn't do the first few to spend a lot of money on it, but there's things that you can do that are free, whether it be, there's a lot of online gaming tools where you can do games nights together with your partners or clients, and that helps with those interactions, help with that relationship building. And like I'll say it one more time, I think trying anything right now, you can definitely find something that no one else has tried that will work, and it's
Excellent. And the same question to you, Aaron.
Sure. I would just make a list of all of your clients and literally reach out to every single one of them and instill and ensure confidence from your perspective. Let them know that you're stable, that you're ready and able to assist them no matter what curveball they might be facing, and walk them through any changes, what might occur, what they need to be aware of about any kind of service changes or any alterations. let them know this SLAs are going to be the same, or if there's any modifications, just instill confidence, let them know, but reach out, just go for it.
Fabulous. Thank you all. There's been some really, really cool ideas during the session. I've learned a lot. I'm sure everyone on the call has done the same thing. So Leslie, Erin, Desiree, and Matt, thank you for sharing some really, really interesting thoughts and ideas for the group. Really appreciate it.
You bet. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Take care.
And a reminder for everyone on the call, the Peloton bike is available to anyone who attends, or you get entered in the draw if you attend 3 sessions and visit 4 sponsor booths, and then complete the survey at the end of the session. So do get to those sponsor booths. They've also got some fabulous offers, and now is a great time for networking with the sponsors. So visit the booths now. They've got some really interesting products to share with you, and also some quite interesting prizes. So thank you all very, very much indeed. See you in the lobby. See you in the sponsor area.
Sweet, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.